All right. Okay, so this is the webinar on Paw Pods and how to train all 4 feet on pods and other things that you can do with the pods. This is my first webinar, so it's kind of foreign to me to be sort of talking to nobody. So bear with me as I kind of muddle through it. Why do we want to train pods? There's lots of different reasons we train them. I think one of the most common reasons is limb awareness. We're trying to get the dog to understand where their feet are. And it can be used for stacking, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute when we talk about training, because the position of the pods is really important to whether or not the dog can actually put their feet on them or not. But we'll get to that in just a minute. We want to train balance. So there might be situations where you use all 4 pods, you might use 3, you might use 2, you might even use 1 pod in some situations. And so we do want to make sure that we are challenging the dog. It's not just about putting their feet on the pods. And there are also flexibility options that we can do with the pods to increase flexibility in our dog's spine and their limbs in different ways. So hopefully we will get through quite a lot of that during the webinar. You guys all do offer shaping, that's good. What you want to do when you're shaping the pods is make sure that you remember to click for one thing. So you don't want to be clicking for all different types of feet on the pods. You want to say, my focus is front feet, my focus is rear feet, and only click for one of those. Because if you get a little click happy, your dog gets kind of confused on what they're being rewarded for. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Your reward position. So let me grab my rewards because I left them over here. Your reward position should be above spine height. So Drama, break. So if I put Drama on 2 balance discs, and I reward up here, he has a relatively flat back. But if I'm down here rewarding, his back is going to roach a little bit. And he's not really going to be able to put much weight on his back feet. See how he's leaning forward? When they do that on the pods, they kick the pods out from behind them. So you want to be up here where they actually put weight to their rear legs instead of leaning forward. Danielle, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I'm actually just trying to see. It's not your fault, it's mine.
Huh?
Because if I have the chat window open at the same time, I don't see you.
Oh, you can't see, okay. All right. So I just want to make sure that you guys understand that the treat position or word position is really, really important. And sometimes your hand position is important. I can't have you guys raise your hand necessarily right now, but lots of people have problems. They put the treats in their pocket and the dog is focused on that pocket instead of on your hand. So even though we're not going to be luring the behavior, we want to make sure that we have our hands fairly high. For some people, if you have bad knees or a bad back, you might sit on a stool or climb to get the dog's focal point a little higher. I'm going to be sitting on my knees, but I'll try to sit on the climb a little bit later. But anyway, so the treat position is really important, and I find that a lot of people are trying to reward down here, and that's when those pods start moving. You can see Drama already kicked one. Good. And it's much harder for him to put weight on his rear legs. So I want you guys to really think about your reward position as we move through this. Drama, hop it up, hop it up, lie down, down. All right. The other thing is, I think that people don't always parent down. So it's important for the dog to learn to put their front and their rear feet on separate objects over time. So we use 2 large discs, and then we're going to move to a large disc and a small disc, which helps the dog learn to bring their rear feet underneath their hips versus keeping them out wide. Then we're going to do 2 small discs, and then we're going to do 2 pods and a small disc, and then we're going to work on shaping front feet, rear feet, and all feet before we move on to other exercises. The other behaviors that you should have in place already is backup and sidestepping before you do the pods, because these are very handy behaviors in getting the dogs to step onto the pod. So if many of my students have the problem where front feet are here and rear feet are right here in front of these pods, and if your dog learns to back up on a verbal cue, then they can back up onto those pods without moving their front feet. And sometimes they end up with 2 feet here and 1 foot on this pod, and kind of moving into them and giving them a sidestepping cue does help them separate their feet and move to all 4 pods. So that's kind of, I just wanted to give you guys where we're going with this. And the proper position for each one of the pieces of equipment is to have it a natural distance apart for your dog. So you want to make sure that you're not overextending them. So if let me move this for a minute. If I ask Drama to stand back. On here, you can see that he's overextended. Hopefully you can see that. He can't really put a whole lot of weight on his rear legs because they're behind his hips. Danielle, can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So we want to make sure that the equipment is positioned so that he can put weight on his rear legs when his head is in a natural position. Good boy. Hopefully you guys can see the difference between that. That's one of the biggest mistakes made with the Paw Pods and any piece of equipment is if the equipment is too far apart, the dog can't distribute their weight correctly, and then all the equipment starts moving and people get frustrated. So the position of the equipment is really, really important to making your dog successful on the equipment. All right, can you help up? All right, lie down. Okay. Any questions so far?
Doesn't look like any yet.
All right, perfect. Okay. So again, we don't want to jump right into the deep end. We want the dog to understand how to stand on 2 pieces of equipment, and we want to pare it down. He's never done this before. You're a brat. You could wait. Back up. All right, so first we want him to stand on 2 separate pieces of equipment that are big, right? And then we want to ask him to stand on something a little bit smaller. So we want to put the small disc down. And this helps him bring his rear legs underneath him and not have them out wide. So oftentimes, part of the problems with the pods is the dog's feet are out really wide, and we don't want that. So we want we want to pare it down to something a little bit smaller. But what if you don't have a small balance disc? You can use like a book or maybe a yoga block, something smaller than the large disc. It does not have to be a small disc. And if your dog is having trouble balancing, they can use a disc that is flat, not inflated. And that really does help them with their balance as well. So then we want to pair both front and rear onto small discs. And you can see that I put them a little bit too close together, so I'm going to separate them out. Good. Now he's pretty balanced there. And you really want to be able to ask the dog to get on the equipment every time in the correct position before you move on. I do reward, and then I send the dog away and ask them to come back and find the right position. And in a perfect world, if I was set up a little differently here, I might send him to both sides and straight back. But you want to make sure that the dog is moving away and then looking at the equipment as they come back. When we get to the pods, I'll give you a little bit different scenario there. The other thing that you want is you want the equipment put on something that keeps it from sliding around a little bit. So I have yoga mats, I have the Canine Fit Bed, and I also have the FitPaws targets that I put under the balance discs, under the pods, even under the bones, just to keep them from rolling away. Other things you can use would be like shelf liner, the rubber side of a bath mat works really, really well to keep those pods from sliding around. It just decreases the frustration of having to reposition the pods all the time. All right, hop it up. Good. All right. So the next piece is going to be putting front feet on the pods and just gaining value for front feet on the pods. So how I would do that is I would get some kibble or some treats. I would get a clicker, and the goal is for you to wait, number one. Wait, sit, wait, wait. The goal is to invite your dog to you from straight away from the pods and reward every time they put their feet on the pods. So I'm gonna click and I'm gonna throw a treat. I'm gonna click, throw a treat. I'm gonna click, throw a treat. So notice that in the pod, oops, sorry. In the pod situation, I am throwing the treats directly behind him so that when he comes back, he is coming straight towards me. I'm actually gonna move this a little, hey, can you off? I'm gonna move this a little bit farther from the wall. Can you still see me? Okay. Yep. All right. So I want him to come back, look at the pods, and step on them just like he's doing. So I want him to really understand that that's the behavior that I'm looking for. All right. So once you have that, we'll move on. But I do want to point out, get up here. I'm going to be a dog for a minute. So many of you probably have had the situation, if I'm the dog, where they're standing over the top of the pods and they're looking up at you for a treat, or you're even trying to lure them maybe, and they don't even see that they're there. So tossing a treat behind them and having them come back to you is how you fix that. It increases the likelihood that they will step on the pods. Okay? Anybody have any questions before I move on?
Yeah, there was a question.
All right, let me come forward so I can see it.
She asked, why do you do that with all 4 pods together instead of just 2 pods?
Okay, so the reason is because it gives the dog a bigger target. Okay? So that it increases the likelihood that they will step on the pods. And you notice when I was rewarding, I didn't care whether he stepped this way or touched one. All I'm trying to do is increase the value for putting their front feet on the pods. Right now, I don't even care which ones they touch as long as they touch them. All right? So this gives them a bigger target. Before we move on to rear feet, you do want to decrease or take 2 pods away and get him to come up. Yes. Hang on, I gotta find my clicker. There it is. You do want to get the dog to put front feet on 2 pods. Yes. Yes. So he has to, in order to do the more advanced behaviors, he has to have value for finding those pods wherever they are. So if I separate them wide, good boy. Or if I even move them this way, I want him to find them wherever they might be. Good boy. All right. Any other questions?
Not yet.
All right, perfect. Okay. All right, so then we want him to back up to the pods. And those of you, well, in both of my classes, you may have seen the channel with the X pen, which I don't have set up here today, but you can imagine that if your dog doesn't have a very strong backup, that you could put all 4 pods in the back of the channel and reward when your dog hits the pods with their rear feet instead of the mat. So in this case, I'm gonna actually bring him over here. Sit, wait. I'm gonna show him the pods are there. And then I'm gonna ask him to back up and find them. I'm going to reward every time he hits the pods. Again, I don't care whether he hits all 4 or 1 or 2 or anything. Right now, I'm just building value for his rear feet touching the pods. Good boy. And again, I'm going to take 2 of these away to build value for him finding just 2 pods. Okay. And I'm going to reward him on that just because he found 1 of them. Again, I'm not super worried about him finding both of them at this time. I'm just building value. Good. So if he came up here and kept going over them every single time, I would have to back up and put all 4 pods back down so that he was more successful. And again, I might put those pods at the back of an X pen or some sort of channel that increases the likelihood that he would find the pods with his rear feet. All right, any questions about that?
Nope.
Okay, perfect. All right, so now I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to bring a small disc and 2 pods, and I'm going to ask him to find the small disc and the 2 pods repeatedly. And this again inspires him to bring his rear legs more underneath him. Good. Good. And then once he is doing that every single time, then I'm going to ask him to put all 4 feet on 4. Okay, so here's a situation where he has, or he had, his feet on 3, and that's where your sidestepping cue comes in. So let me see if I can force that by positioning the pod slightly different. Good, good, good. Good. So I just told him side, and I moved my shoulders into him this way, which inspired him to step to the side. So again, that backing up and sidestepping cue is really important. I think I forgot to mention when we talked about behaviors that you need, sidestepping is the other one besides backup. So again, how many of you, you can just send a note to Danielle, how many of you have trained sidestepping on a verbal cue? Anybody responding?
Jamie says in process. Andrea said nope, not yet. Catherine, yes. Sandy, still working on it. And Betsy working on it.
Okay. And I think everybody, at least the people that are in my Fitness on the Flat class have seen the way I train sidestepping. But just for general purposes, I will go ahead and show that again here. I got a little bit ahead of myself and forgot to mention this early, so I apologize. All right, so sidestepping I do between 2 mats. Let's see if I can get this in the view. A little bit farther away. All right, so when you're training your dog to sidestep, you want to have 2 mats on the floor. It just gives them a target to step out to. You're going to put the treats in the hand opposite the dog. You're going to bring the dog slightly in front of you so that you can step towards their front feet. And they're going to step towards the mat. Now, Drama already knows how to sidestep. Good. And those of you who have a dog that does a lot of heeling, they might try to curl into you a lot. And the way you fix that is to bring their head towards your other leg and bring your shoulders into them. See how he kind of went sideways as the pressure from my body moved him that way. And you just want to move enough pressure so that they are stepping towards the mat. All right. And having it on verbal cue is super, super important, you guys. You cannot use it with the pods unless you have a verbal cue for it. Okay? Any questions about sidestepping?
Not yet.
Okay. If you guys think of something, you can come back to it. All right. So again, I'm going to try to trick him into doing 3 pods. Good. Side. Side. Yes. There. So there's your side step. I'm keeping my hands high and I'm moving my shoulders the direction that I want him to step. Side. Side. Yep. Yep. Oh, good. Okay. Cool. All right. And he is moving the pods a little bit, so we're just going to move them back. And you notice the more he pushes on the pods, the less weight he has on his rear feet, and the more those pods go sliding out from behind him. Good boy. Good. You sit, wait, stand. So there's your side. Good boy. Good. All right, so I'm going to do it one more time and see if I can inspire different. Let's see if I can get that sidestepping. Good. Now it's slid out, so we're going to reposition again. Can you come this way? Come this way. Okay. I'm trying to trick him, but it's not working. Go. Let me try one more time. No. All right. All right. So the position of the pods should really be your dog's natural stance to begin with, so that they can put weight on all 4 feet. Good. If you have the pods positioned too far apart, they can't put any weight to the rear. If you have the treats too low, they can't put any weight to the rear. So that's when the pods slide a lot, is when the head position is too low. Hopefully you guys can see here how he really doesn't have much weight on his rear feet at all until I bring the treats up higher. Good. Okay. Off. Lie down. Down. All right. Does that all make sense so far to those of you who have not trained all 4 pods?
I got it all good.
Everybody's all good? Okay. I'm going through it kind of fast just because I want to be able to get to some of the other exercises. But I have trained quite a few dogs to do this. And if your dog understands value for front feet, value for rear feet, sidestepping, and back up, it can be successful as long as you break it down into steps the way I've done here. I think what a lot of people do is they stick the pods out and they're often too wide for the dog's stance, and the dog is really struggling to get on them. So it's really, really important that you put those pods where your dog's feet will naturally fall if they were standing, which makes sense, but I've seen a lot of people, I've had a lot of people set up pods for me the way they're doing at home, and I get this wide stance. And so it's, again, it's most of the time for most of our dogs, the pods can almost be touching or touching to be in their natural standing position. So keep that in mind when you're training it. And of course, we're going to move them all around today. But training the initial pods, you want to make sure that they are right underneath the shoulders and hips. All right? Okay. No questions?
Nope. You're good.
All right. So some of the things that you can do, and let me move my setup really quick. Velma, can you help it up? Pop it up here. Light up. Good. Let me close that or he will get into it because he's naughty. All right, I'm going to move my thing here so you might be able to see a little bit better. Danielle, do you think that's okay? Should I can move the camera up a little higher.
No, I think it's okay. Like maybe if you spin it a little more.
This way?
No. Where you had it was better.
No worries. Like the hardest part about all this is figuring out how to get everything so you guys can see it better.
Right.
Okay.
Here, we got a question if you're ready for it.
Sure, go ahead.
If she has little dogs, do the pods get close enough for their natural stance?
Yes, actually, there's a couple of things you can do. So first question I would ask is little dogs, are we talking 5-pound Chihuahua or 10, 15-pound mini Aussie? Or, okay, sorry, American Shepherd.
Let's see. That was Betsy. Betsy, what size dogs do you have? 15-pound Jack Russells.
Perfect. Okay. So a couple of things about little tiny dogs. So you do put the pods right together, or you can simply take 2 of them away. So that if your dog is very narrow, that they're using 1 pod for 2 feet and 2 rear feet. You can, when you put them together, the dog might stand on the inside. I don't know if you can see that. On the inside of the pods, and that's perfectly fine. It just really depends on what their stance is on what you use. Like I have a 13-pound dog and an 11-pound dog, and they use all 4 pods, and they just adjust their stance narrower if they need to. That said, I have a couple clients that have 5-pound Chihuahuas, and we're using 2 pods instead of 4. Okay. Any further questions on that?
Nope, not that I can see.
All right. Okay, so what do you do with the pods once?
Thanks. Never mind, she was just saying thanks.
Oh, okay, no problem. So what do you do with them after they learn how to, are you done? After they have all 4 feet on the pods, then what do you do? They are a balance challenge, okay? You can challenge their balance after they're standing on the pods by weight shifting off of handler movement, which I'm gonna show you, doing nose touches side to side, asking for a paw, and also asking for different ways for them to find the pods. So I'm gonna go through those things now. And if you have questions, just send them to Danielle and I'll answer them when I'm done with these few options. So one of them is weight shifting off of handler movement. We want the dog to be on the pods first. Wait. We want to walk around them. Uh-oh. Wait. So that they turn their head and shift their weight. So as he turns his head this way, he's shifting weight to the outside of his body, the opposite way. So wait. And then when he shifts this way, he's turning his head and shifting to the other side of his body. So he should shift his weight back as he turns his head. Good. Then you want to go in both directions, or you can play peekaboo to get that weight shift and balance challenge. Good. All right. Give a paw is probably the hardest one, just because they want to lift their opposing rear leg when they lift their front paw. Good. Wait. Good. Yes. And foot. Yes. Now he's moved that pod a little bit just because he's shifting his weight, so I'm going to ask him to get off. I'm going to put him back on. Good. Paw. Foot. Drama. Foot. Weight. Good. Leave it. Paw. Weight. All right, and then the other one is a nose touch and a nose touch hold. So I don't know how many of you have trained a nose touch hold, but you can dictate how they're distributing their weight by using a hold. Weight. Touch. Touch. So I can shift his weight. Uh-oh. Touch. Just by using a nose touch. And I'm doing it kind of fast, so I'm going to slow down. This is your nose touch hold. Uh-oh. Hold. Yes. Hold. Yes. Or I can actually ask him to pop up and land on the pods to find balance. I can also use that touch, hold, 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 hold to shift his weight forward, and I can hold, use it up to shift his weight back. So if you haven't trained a nose touch hold, I would inspire you to try it. I believe the nose touch hold video is in both classes. Good boy. All right, and then the other challenge would be using a pivot motion to get onto the pods instead of backing up. So I'm just moving into him, having him pivot on and off the pods in both directions. So again, this is just increasing limb awareness and giving you another chance, another way to have them find the pods. Wait. Good. Good. Yes. Good boy. So notice that his position sometimes is a little better when I'm standing up versus when I'm sitting down. Again, that's bringing his focal point up a little bit versus me having to raise my arms. All right. Any questions about this so far?
Yes. There was any tips for teaching the nose touch hold. Her guy will only do a light, quick touches, and she's having trouble building duration and pressure.
Okay, so a couple of things that I would try, and Danielle, I'll let you chime in, is clicking for more of a hold by moving your hand into the dog just a little bit. Drama. Okay. Over here. Touch. Touch. So I'm going to move my hand into him and click and reward. Touch. Touch. I know, I should let you chew first, huh? Touch. Yes. Didn't click that time. You don't have any chew. All right. Have you tried, whoever asked that question, have you tried moving your hand into your dog a little bit?
Yes, and he licks it.
So do you have treats in the hand that you're using?
No.
Okay. So I have found that licking is kind of a product of this whole process. You just have to start rewarding for no licking, or give a non-reward marker when they lick.
And really make sure your hand is clean.
What?
I was saying, really make sure that you have no residue on your hand from the treats with something, because they just can't help but lick.
Right.
And then the other thing would be putting them up against something or in a corner where they can't back away from you easily.
Right. So there, come here. I had that problem with Drama, is if he wasn't up against a wall, touch, then he would move away and it would give him more of a time to lick me. Whereas over time, without a way to back away, I was able to reward before he licked and move my hand away. Which I know there's fast lickers out there, so it takes time. Any other thoughts, Danielle? Danielle's actually the one that did the video on the nose touch hold, so she recently did it with Scooter.
I'd say sometimes cupping your hand just a little bit.
Okay.
Kind of helps them get the idea that, you want a little more than just a quick peck. And some dogs are very sensitive about squishing their nose. Dogs like Scooter who have where their actual nose itself, their little nose sticks out further than their muzzle, don't like to put as much pressure because it pushes their nose to the side or up. So kind of like what Bobby's doing right now, a little lower, or at first in Scooter's case, he wanted to put his nose on the top of my hand, and so like just his lips kind of smushed up against my hand. So you just kind of have to figure out what works, for your dog.
Right. I have found a lot of clients want them to really hold that nose touch, and they don't really realize that they're cutting off their dog's oxygen supply by covering their holes in their nose. So you have to make sure that the position of your hand is not covering the holes in their nose, or it doesn't inspire them to want to hold the position. So with Drama, when he holds, I move my hand kind of on the top of his nose so that I'm not plugging the holes, or I put it underneath his chin. Touch, hold, hold. Good.
And for some exercises where there is heavy breathing, panting, or it's hot out, I use a chin rest instead of a nose touch, because it's kind of like trying to ask somebody to, breathe heavily while you're pinching their nose shut.
Right. It sounds silly, but I've trained a lot of clients to do this. Yeah. Oftentimes they're cutting off the oxygen supply. Yep. And don't really realize it.
And some dogs will just hold their breath, even if you're not cutting off, even if you're not pressing their nostrils.
Right.
Chloe tends to hold her breath when she does a nose touch hold. So really active movements with a nose touch hold don't work. The chin rest works better just because she breathes.
For sure, for sure. All right. Did that answer your question?
I think so. Looks good.
Okay. So I'm going to move on to some other things that you can do with the pods. And I want you guys to understand that you can't move on to any of these other options until the dog actually has value for putting their feet on the pods. So if you are missing any of the pieces that we've done so far, these other exercises that we're going to do will not be in your dog's wheelhouse. Your dog will just not be able to do it because they don't have any value for putting their feet on the pods. So please go through the steps that we've already done and have value for front and rear feet on the pods and front and rear feet in a natural stance before you start messing with the pods the way we're going to do now. Okay? All right. So the first thing that we'll do is move the pods wider. So we're going to want to challenge balance and the lateral stabilizers in the shoulder by asking the dog to stand a little wider. And I want you to know before we do this that if you position the pods too wide, your dog will generally tell you that they can't do it by stepping right next to the pod repeatedly. And so it's possible that you may have moved them too wide. I also am not in the business of increasing an abduction angle in the shoulder. So you just want, let's see if you guys can see this. Okay, so if I'm a dog and my hands are right underneath my shoulders, you're not trying to separate them like this. You just want a little bit of angle in their shoulders versus trying to do this. So we want them to be able to stabilize in this position and in this position and eventually in this position. But we don't want to ask for too much abduction of the limbs. All right, so I'm going to move these a little wider and then ask him to stand on them. And see how he immediately found the correct position because he already has value for finding the pods with his feet. I'm rewarding high so that he can find his balance and have weight to his rear. And then I'm going to let him off. And if he moves the pod too wide, I'm just going to move it back. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Lie down. Wait. Wait. Side. Side. Yes. Good. So this is probably about the biggest angle I would ask of him. Should I move this around the other way so you can see?
Oh, straight on? Sure.
Okay. All right, Jonah, hop it up. Go. Hop it up. Wait. Down. Down. Wait. Bear with me for just a second. All right. Okay. All right, so just show this. There, is that a better view?
Yep. You
can see that his hips or his rear feet and his front feet are a little wider than his natural stance. You can ask from this position. You can ask for nose touches. Touch. Good. Touch. Touch. Yes. Touch. You can walk around him. You can ask for a bow. Oh. Uh-oh. Bow. This is a wide leg bow. And you really want to watch the duration that you ask for. You want to make sure that you're not asking for them to stay on there for 30 seconds to a minute when they're first learning, because those stabilizer muscles get really sore or fatigued really, really fast. So you want to make sure that you're not asking them for too long of a duration. So I usually tell people 10 to 15 seconds to start. And then you can build up to a minute, but if your dog is losing interest, stepping off, they can't hold the position any longer, those are signs of fatigue. You've probably asked for too much. Okay? All right. I'm going to change this one more time and turn it the other way again. Drama, can you get up? All right. So we want to use the pods also for flexibility. And I'm going to ask him to put his front and rear feet on the pods, and I'm going to lower the treats for this so that he can get a nice stretch through his spine, through his hamstrings, and through his neck. Good. I'm not going to toss a treat when we're doing stretching because I don't want him to spring. I'm going to just simply ask him or invite him off. What I see a lot is this, and this is not an easy position for the dog. See how roached up his back is, and we're asking his neck to stretch back. We really want, come on, that rounding of the spine and the stretch through the neck and the hamstrings by keeping his head low in this situation. Okay, good. All right. We're going to do some other flexibility in just a few minutes. But there's nothing wrong with having the dog's back roach up for a stretch. What you don't want is a roached back when you're doing standing around and moving around them and trying to get them to shift their weight back, because you don't want them to hold stress in their spine. You want them to relax their spine and their neck and be able to shift their weight naturally and engage their core. You don't want to inspire them to engage their core with a roached back position. However, what I just showed you is a stretch. It's perfectly fine, okay? And during the training of the pods, you might get, your dog might roach up a bit because maybe you haven't figured out where to put the treats, or maybe they're just learning and so they're kind of holding a little bit of tension in their spine. During that process, if you see that they're doing it, it's okay during the training process, but do something afterwards that lengthens them through the spine. Like take them for a quick walk around the yard and do some cavalettis. Do something active that allows their back to relax and for them to go back into a normal position. Okay, any questions?
Nope.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I showed you abduction. We also want adduction, which is bringing the legs into the midline of the body. So we're going to ask him to put 2 feet on 2 pods. Good. So this is bringing his rear feet and his front feet narrower than his natural stance. So this is going to activate, again, the lateral stabilizers. Good. And again, you can do the nose touch and the walking around to test that balance. Try it one more time. We're not doing that one. Stand, just stand. Balance, drama. No, we're not doing that one yet. Wait. Good. Okay. So we've done a lot of work on the pods lately, and he thinks we're doing a different exercise that you will see here shortly. But this is hard for some dogs, and I'll be honest, I do have a German Shepherd that can do this. They just sort of wrap their paws around the pods, and they can do it. I don't think I have any Newfoundlands or Burmese mountain dogs that can actually fit 2 feet on the pods. But for those dogs, you can just move the pods a little closer together, or as close as they can get to bring their front feet and their rear feet a natural, or narrower than their natural stance. So, so there are other things that you can do that you have to adjust. So again, with the tiny dogs or the little 15-pound dog, you might not be able to get that narrower piece with the pods. But you will be able to get the wider piece with the pods. And that's just just the way it is, kind of. I would, for a dog like that, to get that narrower piece, I might put them on something narrow, like maybe a 2x4, or even the top side of a foam roller, to get them to bring their legs in narrow, or like a jump bump. That would be another option as far as bringing their legs in narrower than their natural stance. Okay? All right, moving on. Unless there's questions.
Nope.
Nope, okay. All right, so then you want to work on wide in the front and narrow in the rear. Good. It's a little bit too wide, so I do pull them off and reposition him. So this is just testing his balance in a different way. It's again activating the lateral stabilizers in both the hips and the front, just in the abduction or in adduction. And then of course we want to do the opposite of that. Oops, hang on. Which is wide in the rear. Good. And narrow in the front. Uh-oh. No, we're not doing that one yet. Good. Good. You see how my treat position affects his ability to hold the right position? If I bring the treats, wait. If I bring the treats up, his back is flat. But if I even get a little bit sloppy with my treats, his back does roach. All right. So again, it's just challenging their balance differently. So when we ask them for wide or narrow, I'm just showing you the position, but you can add those weight shifting options, the give a paw, either a front or a rear paw, or the nose touch, walking around them and challenging their balance. All of those can be added to each one of these positions. It's just a matter of building the value for the pods first before you add any of those options.
I don't think you showed any rear paws.
What?
I don't think you showed give a rear paw.
I didn't show give a rear paw, but I can. So give a rear paw has to be done on 4 pods first. Wait. I'm going to hold my hand up here just to get him to keep his head up. Okay. And then I'm going to ask him to lift his rear paw. Side. Yes, wait. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Side. Off. Wait. So see how he's pushing these ones forward now because he's leaning back? So if he's not putting weight on all 4 feet, they do move. Let me reposition them again. Good. Uh-oh. Wait. 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 Hold. Drama. Lift. Uh-uh. Lift. Lift. Uh-oh, goodness. It's getting tired already. So your rear paws have to be on cue again before you ask them to lift. He's also, there was a noise in the neighboring office that he's worried about. You decided you want to do it now? Okay, hang on. Okay, lift. Here. Okay, lift. Lift. Yes. Get up. Side. Yes. Okay, rise. Okay. Rise. Yes. Good boy. Good. Come. Off. Yep, good. Wait. Okay, lift. Okay, leave it. Wait, lift. All right, so I guess I'm not going to get lifting on that side today. But I think you guys get the idea. Other things you can do. Let's see. I recently started working with a gal in Holland, and she's actually from Belgium, but I met her in Holland. And she taught something called a forelimb reach back, and she also taught the rear limb to reach forward. So what I'm going to show you is the reach back. And I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to turn myself around here because he's a little stronger. Which side are you stronger on? You're stronger on this side. Okay. So I have named both his front feet. So John, come on, sit, paw, and sorry, foot, and paw, yes. And then he already has learned that reach means reach behind him. So I started pairing his foot and reach together to get this behavior. So once they understand all 4 pods in the correct position, you can move one back. Foot, reach, foot, reach, foot, reach, yes. Good boy. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing an active stretch through the shoulder and bicep. And this is how it starts. And then foot, reach, foot, foot, reach, yes. Then you move that pod a little farther back. And then you take that pod away. And you may have noticed that for this exercise, I have moved the pods a little bit closer than natural distance apart. Foot, reach, reach, reach. Foot, reach. You can do it. Foot, reach. Jump, foot, reach. Yes. Good. Do this one. Can you do paw reach? Yes. All right. Paw reach. Paw reach. Good. So again, I'm building value for him reaching back with his front paws. Foot reach, wait. And stretching through his shoulder. Paw reach. Good. Paw reach. Yes. And then paw reach, wait. And I am cueing that to get a longer hold. I'm giving him a wait cue or a stay, depending on what you've trained, to get it to hold longer. And so I would eventually ask him to hold that for up to 15 seconds. Any questions on that?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. And hind limb reach. So I don't actually use the pods yet for this, so I'm going to show it with something higher. Let's see, I need a bone. So instead of teaching him to reach forward, I am elevating him. I'm going to elevate him on a bone. I'm going to do it on a different one because this one has too much air. And I'm going to ask him to reach back with his back foot. Just wait. Okay. Good. Lift, reach. Lift, reach. Uh-oh. Stand, lift, reach. Right there. Stand, lift, reach. Right. Drama. lift, reach, reach, lift. Yes, right there. Uh-oh. Yes. Off. Try again. Yes. So I'm actually stretching the leg that is still on the bone, or that was still on the bone. He's getting tired. And of course, I saved the hard stuff for last, right? Yes. Lift, reach, yes. So I'm gonna lower the treats a little bit until he gets the position, and then raise it up so he can put weight on the leg that's on the pod. Weight. Uh-oh. Lift, reach, reach. Good. Weight, weight, weight. Okay. And then, of course, we're going to do that with the other side as well. So again, this is increasing the flexibility of the leg that's still on the bone. Rise. Rise, reach. Rise, 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 reach. Rise. I think you're tired, Roma. Rise, reach. There you go. And I am kind of helping him to understand that the pod is back there because this is not 100% trained on this side. But I'm going to go ahead and let him rest because I know he's getting tired. So this is definitely a more advanced exercise, and you really do have to have the paws and the rear feet on different cues, and the dog has to know that reach, or whatever you would use as a cue for that, means to reach behind them. So again, that's a little bit more advanced. He has all of his paws are on a verbal cue, and that reach back is something that is new to him. So we just started training it in the last month or so. All right, any questions about that before I move on?
Not yet, nope.
Okay, so the next one is a bridge to bow. Some of you may have seen that on 2 bones in one of my classes recently. I think it was in the winter workouts class. And when I say bridge, it means that you want the dog's feet slightly wider than natural, meaning wider in a sense of between front feet and rear feet, not wide this way, but wide this way. So I'm off. So I'm moving my little targets around so that hopefully it will help him not kick them. And we're going to ask him to be in a bridge. Good, but they're sliding. So I'm going to, again, good boy. Get back. Good. Yes. Good. Good. All right, so there's your bridge. And from here, we're going to ask for a bow. Good. So again, we're going to work the shoulder stabilizers because his elbows are not going all the way down. And we're going to ask for a nice stretch. Uh-oh. Bow. Uh-oh. Good boy. Try again. Yes. Yes. Bow. Good. Good. Now I'm using a chin rest to get that hold. I'm going to ask him to come back up. I'm going to ask him to get off. Good. All right. Good. Uh-oh. So this is going to work the core. The bow is actually, again, going to activate the stabilizer muscles. And it's going to stretch through the low back, the butt, and the hamstrings. This can also be done between two bones. The pods makes it a little bit more challenging. All right. Any questions about that?
Nope.
Okay. All right, and push-up. So again, we want to start with the pods fairly natural position, and we're going to bring the dog's nose forward of his shoulders and down. And he's going to stay balanced with his rear feet on the pods and his front feet on the pods. We're looking for bending in the elbow and the dog to come forward of their shoulders. So if you don't have the position right, you're going to end up with bow instead of push-up. So this activates the shoulders as well as the biceps and triceps. You can make this even harder by putting him into a bridge first and then asking for that push-up. Good. Good. Okay. All right. And then probably the one that I get asked about the most, which I'm going to be honest, I haven't worked on a lot with Drama. He has front feet, but he does not have the rear feet very good yet. And that is upside down pods. So that is being able to balance with feet on the pods when they're upside down. I do find that bringing them a little bit closer at first so that the dog has a lot more weight on their rear legs is handy. But again, I don't think I'm going to get him all 4 feet up here right now. But he does do a pretty good job of his front feet. That's right now, apparently. So I do find that if they come in and start stomping, that doesn't work. So I usually have to give him sit, sit, wait. I usually have to give him a cue to come in softer. Good. Get the other one up. Good, that was a good try. Can you bring it? Bring. Yes, good boy. Recently, I discovered that instead of chasing the pods when I was doing this, that I could get him to bring them back. Uh-oh. Yes. Good. That was a good try. Good job. One more try. Good boy. Good. Can you bring? Bring. Bring. Bring here. Drama. Bring. Can I get that one? No, that one. Yes. Good boy. All right, so I would generally try rear feet on the pods right side up. Before I tried all 4 pods. I do find that the rear pods are upside down are very, very difficult for the dog to figure out how to find balance. But the front paws are a lot easier. And that's partly because of the reward position and whether or not the dog is shifting weight to the rear. Because if they don't put weight on those pods, then they can't actually keep them upright. I have tried all 4 pods, just like we did earlier. And sometimes that is more successful. Drama's getting tired and he's not even trying anymore. Good boy. That's very good. Go try. Okay. So, has anybody in the group been successful getting their dog on the flat side of the pods? Or have you even tried it?
Crickets.
What?
No, Never tried it. Too advanced.
Did anybody put any air in your pod?
One larger upside down pod.
Yes, so I have one of those big pods. That works really well, actually. But it's a lot more challenging to have 1 foot on each pod. So then the last thing, where are we at on time? We're almost done? Okay. So the last thing I want to show you is just some very simple things, or what I consider to be more on the simple side, but still a little challenging. So once you have your dog on the pods, oh, that's a little bit too wide. Uh-oh. Yeah. Come on. Are you getting tired? Sit. Stand. Stand. Sit. Stand. Flat. Stand. So this does take a lot more balance to keep their feet on the pods while moving through the sit stand and the down stand. You can do ipsilateral stands, just sidestepping up and ipsilateral off the other side. Ooh. All right, we got the pods out of the way, didn't we? Okay. This way. Drama. Oh, heard a noise. It's okay. Go. Go. All right. So I don't know if you guys could hear that noise, but somebody dropped something upstairs. All right. Going back to this. I'm going to turn around so he can face the sound he didn't like. There we go. Yes. Side, side. Yes. Good. Move, move. I know you're getting tired. I meant to actually have 2 dogs to do this with, but it didn't work out today. Where's your ipsilateral? That's fine. Good. 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 Now, I don't really care that he's doing the diagonal pods. I just want him to reach out with his front and his rear. All right. Off. And then, of course, I think you guys have all seen me do sidestepping across them. Good. Side. Yes. Side. Good. Can you do it with your rear feet today, or are you done? We'll try it once, okay? Okay. Good. Side. Good boy. Very nice. Go. All right. So I think that hopefully I have shown you how valuable the pods can be. There are quite a few exercises that you can do with the paw pods that maybe do not provide as much limb awareness as doing the same exercises on the fit bone or a balance disc or even a peanut. But there are lots and lots and lots of things that you can do. So with that, I will say, are there any other questions? And if there's not, I will let y'all get back to your life.
Did I miss anybody's questions? Did I get everybody's questions answered? Let's see. I got it. Wow, that was an awesome session. Thank you.
You're welcome. My first webinar. It seems kind of weird to sort of talk to nobody. But hopefully you guys got something out of it. I hope to do a few more of these, but the Paw Pods seem to be a general mystery to a lot of people, so I thought I would start out with the pods.
Thanks. We learned some new things to try. Thank you. Nope, great webinar. Thank you so much. We're here listening. Can't wait for the next one. I'm sure I will have questions later.
All right. Well, you guys all know you can email me with questions, or you can definitely post them in the forums. I will be uploading the webinar to YouTube and posting it in both classes, both the Fitness in the Flat and the Warm, Cool, and Flex. So you can look forward to watching it again if you want to. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you all at the next one.
Thank you, everyone.